Hi, this is Matt Stone of 180 Degree Health, and I'm sitting here with somebody who's actually done the RBTI, and she's worked with Challen, and worked with Challen for about 6 months and had a huge turnaround in her health. And she was actually the first person that got me interested in coming up to West Virginia and to study and see what was going on. I heard some really compelling things, some things that he was able to forecast, some things that he was able to see in her numbers and tell her about her own personal health problems without any prior knowledge of her situation, and other really interesting things. So what makes this particularly interesting is that I was trying to help this person out for a long time, and repeated blood sugar crashes again and again, and there was nothing that we could really do. That I couldn't figure out anything that gave her any kind of consistent results. She'd do well for a few days, then all of a sudden something would crash and she'd be back where she started. So anyways, I just want to ask her a few questions today to share with you guys about some of her experiences and what's gone on with her since she started working with Challen. So since we've been talking, the coolest thing I've seen that you talked about is what happened with a filling you had in your front tooth. That's the coolest thing. Can you tell everybody what happened?
Well, about 13 or 14 years ago, I got a hole in my front tooth, and so I had to get that filled, and they drilled it out and put a filling in, and that filling has been in there for about 14 years. About 2 weeks after I started the program with Challen, the filling actually popped out, and I was really concerned that I would have to go to the dentist, but at the time I didn't have the energy to go to the dentist, so I just let it go. But the tooth has actually filled in now. There's no longer a hole. There's a little groove where it had been drilled out, but that's all there is. The actual tooth has regrown.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and just, I know you guys can't see her, but her teeth are really, really great, and she had struggled with bulimia for a long time, which obviously exposes the teeth to a lot of strong stomach acid, and all of her enamel had worn away. That's all come back. The discoloration in her teeth is all returned. Her teeth are very white. And that's really what this program is all about, is getting your body in a state where it can remineralize. And I've heard a lot of really cool stories like that. So that's just one of them that I've seen in person. Would you care to tell us, what else? A lot of people say, well, you're not already healed yet. It's been 6 months, this and that. Maybe it's not working. Maybe this is just because you've had an improvement in nutrition. You could get this with any of these quote-unquote healthy diets that are out there. What do you have to say to that? And what really was your situation that you're coming from? How bad was it, and how much improvement have you seen?
Well, when I first started with Challen, I was to the point where I was bedridden. I had been bedridden anyway for about a year, but I was going back downhill. I had tried about every single alternative healthy diet that is out there after I had tried everything that mainstream had to offer. I had consulted with doctors in Florida, Utah at the Huntsman Cancer Institute, Cleveland Clinic. I live in the Chicago area, and so obviously Loyola and all those places. I have some connections higher up in the medical field, or whatever you want to call it. So I was able to consult with very many very intelligent doctors, and they were not able to put the puzzle pieces together. When I had gotten to Challen, I was to the point where I was throwing everything up. I hadn't slept through the night in a long time, despite having been on many tranquilizers and tried all sorts of things that way. And I had already tried all of the healthy diets. I called Challen, gave him my numbers. He told me what to do, and that night I slept through the night. And I was down in weight with you, man. I'd gained a few pounds, but then that suddenly backfired, and I had lost it all again. And so with Challen, I gained 40 pounds in 2 months. I was not overeating. I was not force-feeding myself. I just ate 3 meals a day, what I could, and did what he said to do with the rest of it. And it has just come on. My energy has slowly improved. My and well, I guess I should say, I had cancer in my thyroid and some other places, and I had tumors. I actually have a stock of paper about 3 inches thick of blood tests and ultrasounds and urine tests and poop tests and all sorts of things that show everything I had wrong with me. And those are just the tests that came back with something wrong. But my thyroid is completely normal now, in size and in function. I'd had a blood test done to check up on how things were going, and my numbers came back normal on the blood test. I flew here to Pittsburgh on my own, where before the last flight I had taken, I was in a wheelchair, actually, and I could not walk for any of it. I was wheelchaired everywhere because I could not stand by myself. So, no, I haven't healed completely, but it's only been 6 months, and for 6 months of that much, I fully expect for a lot of other things to continue to improve.
Cool, and that's really what I wanted people to grasp here, is that, I think when I first reported that Challen didn't look like, Mark Sisson or an American Gladiator or something like that, and that, he looked kind of like a normal 62-year-old man, but he just seemed to have a lot of energy and be in a good mood and, obviously in good health. Looks can be really, really deceiving. In fact, she just told me earlier that at her sickest, she had a perfectly etched six-pack and, had one of the most aesthetically pleasing bodies by modern definitions that one could possibly attain. But, she was in terrible health. She was even, her survival was on the line for much of her journey that she's been through. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing, people coming into Challen's office and calling them on the phone. These are people in dire straits who get their health back. And, it's really a matter of is it able to help people improve their health, extend their lifespan, give them more energy and vitality, less frequent colds, flus, stomach aches, cancers, and so forth. And like I said, it's very compelling what I'm seeing in this interview. I really appreciate you doing that. It's a big help. But there's a couple other things I just want to ask you real quick. I don't want this to drag on for hours and hours. But a lot of people are saying, well, Challen's just a psychic, or he has the ability he's doing some kind of voodoo or something like that. I know he's forecasted some amazing things, telling you that, your next period, you're going to have, it's going to be the heaviest you've ever had, and you might pass a bunch of clots and all these different strange things, only for them to come true 2 weeks later, almost to the day, just like he said it would. With your experience and your understanding, and as you've been studying your own numbers and learning as you've gone along, do you think it's psychic, or is this stuff actually pretty simple and easy to see and very predictable?
Well, he's definitely not psychic. Every time he's told me something, he's usually explained why he sees that in the numbers. And it makes sense to me, and I understand. And I've now been testing several friends of mine, and they've had the same experience. And I've even been able to see things in their numbers now because of what I'm learning. I had tested a couple friends about a week ago, and they both had a very similar pattern, and that was because they had both gone out to eat at the same restaurant and eaten the same meal, and I could see that they had eaten pork. So it's not psychic. There are actual patterns that show up, and I was able to ask them and point that out, and I was right. And that's simply what Challen is doing is the numbers show up in certain patterns because a person has done a very specific something. So it has nothing to do with psychic. It's just more, I guess, memorization, if anything.
Yeah, that's what I've seen too, and it's really funny. He keeps repeating, "Oh, when you see how simple this is, you'll kick yourself." And it really is simple. I mean, I'm already getting to the point where a person who's very ill walks in, I look at their numbers, and it's very obvious. Like I said, pork is one of those things that's very easy to see in the numbers. It makes the body very acidic. The lowest pHs I've seen, I thought, wow, this person must eat a lot of pork. She'd eaten a ham sandwich every day for the last 3 days prior to the test, and so forth. So you can start to pick up on these patterns right away. It's not very complicated or complex. Maybe in theory it is. The theoretical part of it is very complex, but in actual practice, this stuff is really pretty easy and simple, and very, very fascinating. So, anyways, thanks a lot for sharing your time. I'd love to talk to you for hours and hours and have you tell the people, some of the things that you told me since we've been hanging out this afternoon. But we'll cut it off there and maybe get back together for another interview sometime.